Alright guys, and welcome back. We talked about the available players right here in the last video, and today we're going to talk about this chat thing. Alright, so if we look at the index page, this is the index mult page, index multiplayer page.php, and if we look at it, we've already seen it. But we looked at the available players and we put the available players in this div here. This time we're gonna look at this. We have the div chat messages here, and we also have the div chat big right here. So what it is the chat big, you see color green and the text chat, so it's this one. And it also contains the text area here. So you see you got a text area right there, and that's where we're gonna put our chats in. Hello, and you see it appears right here. So what happens is if I write something here and I push enter, it's gonna save to the SQL, and then it's gonna look for new. If someone has put anything in here, it's going to look for new stuff, so it displays display the chats all the time, or with an interval of I think 1500 milliseconds or something like that. And we're gonna look at it. So that's what's happening here, the chat big, and we're outputting it to the chat messages over here. Okay, so we have talked about the JavaScripts here, and now we're going to talk about the chat box right here. If we look at the JavaScript chat box, it looks like this. So whenever the index mult has loaded, then we will do this. This one and this one and this one. So what it does is, it's if we look at these two first, it's setting an interval to change the chat messages, as you saw, to whatever display messages is putting out here, and it does this with an interval of 1500 milliseconds, and it also does this the first time we load the JavaScript, so we can do it like that. And then we are doing this as well. So what this does is, if some key is pushed on the keyboard, then if the key code to that button is equal to 13, that is the enter button. So whenever that one is pushed, we're gonna do an Ajax call, and it's with the post method, and we're going to insert message.php with the variables of chat text, which was in the text area right there. And if we have a success, we are just putting it to nothing again, this area. So whenever I push enter, it's going to disappear because of this. So what happens in the insert message.php? Well, let's have a look. It's in the same folder as index mult, because you don't see anything right here. So insert message. What we'll do is we do a session start, so we get our session variables, and we're including this one now, these classes here. We were talking about the user class before, so now we got another class, and it's called the chat class, or we find it in the chat.php. So classes, and we got the chat there. So it's the same thing. We do a lot of get and set to use variables in the functions down under here. So if we look at the insert message.php again, it says if the post chat text here is set, then we create a chat, and we're doing these set here. So we're setting some variables, and then we do the function insert chat messages. So we get the user ID, we get the game ID, and we get the chat text, whatever we put in this text area here. That's what we have set right now. So that's what we can use in the insert chat message here. So I go back, or sorry, I open up and we'll look at the chat here, where it says insert chat messages. There's our function. So it includes the database, so we can use it over here. And what we will do is we're going to insert into the chats table, we're going to insert the chat user ID, the chat game ID, and the text we have. So if we have a look at it, this is the chats table. So we have a chat ID, which is only incrementing one each time to, well, we have that one. And we put in the chat user ID, and this is which user it is. So now you see it's only étoile right here. I could put in something else here. If I log in with dia, login, multiplayer game, and we should be here. Well, you see étoile says hi there. Hi étoile. And if I refresh the database, we will see down here in the last row that the text hi étoile is set and it's chat user ID 2. So dia should have the user ID 2 in the users here, user table. And if we look at 2, it's dia. So it's only to keep track on which user it is. We don't have the name of the user here, but if we have the user ID, we can always get the name from the user table. So that's what we do. We insert into chat everything, so we get the row with the text, and that's everything for this one. Now we go back to the JavaScript chat box, and what we will look at now, we looked at this, how to put in a chat text into the SQL, and now we're gonna display all the messages or all the texts we have. Or actually we're gonna just put out 15 of the chat text here. Oops. This is because I'm now logged out from étoile, I think. After a while, if I haven't done anything. There you go. So, if we have a look at the display messages.php to display this, let's have a look. Display messages. So in this PHP, we're doing this instead. We're doing a session start to get the session variables. We're including the chat class. We're creating a chat. We're setting here the user ID, and we're setting the game ID. So who's ever logged in and what game ID do we have? And then we do this function here, display message. So if I now go back to the chat to look at my class, we have the display message right under the insert message. So, and it's a little bit bigger, as you see here. Oh, sorry, it stops right there, but it's quite big anyway. Over there. So what we'll do is we connect to the database, so we get access to it, and then we select everything from the chats table, where we have the chat, the game ID, chat game ID. So it's actually well, everything here, where the chat game ID is equal to 0. And what we'll do also is we're grabbing all the chat game ID, which is 0, and we order it by chat ID descending or descent. So we're flipping this. Why we do that is because all the new text is gonna go in the last row right here, but we want the last text put in to be the first one up here. You know, it makes sense. So the new text is gonna show first, but that it's put last in the SQL. So we need to flip it, and we do that by order by chat ID descending or descent. And we are only grabbing the one with the chat game ID 0. Now you have only chat game ID 0 here, and that is because no one is playing here. If there would be red, if someone is playing against someone, then we're gonna have and they're chatting to each other, they're gonna have their game ID right here. We're not gonna be able to see whatever they're chatting about. We only want to see what the forum or this chat is saying, and everyone with the game ID 0 is displayed here because they're not in a multiplayer game. So 0, we're checking for everything, and then we are doing this is just initializing a variable that is chat ID for game, and we're getting the chat game ID. If we look here, we set chat game ID here with the game ID, and it should be 0 if we're not in a game. So it gets this one, and then we're doing an exit count. We do a row count here. So if we have every chat, we're gonna count how many chat text there is, and we go into this if the exit count. If we have chat texts, we are going into this if statement, and we do a while loop here, and we are checking this row chat, so we get every row here in the chats table. We're getting those, and for every row here we are now going to check the table users. So every time I go in here, I'm gonna check the user table as well. And what we'll do is we're gonna select everything from the users where user ID. So we're just gonna actually select one thing from it, and that's where the user ID is something that is this one. So chat user ID, it's actually checking this user ID. Let's say it's 1 here, it's me, or Etoile. It's gonna go and get everything from Etoile in the user table. And if it would be Dia, it would check everything that we have on Dia in the user table here. Why do we want to get something from the user here for a certain chat user ID? Well, it's to get the name. That's one thing we need. So we're checking the user table, and we are getting, you see here, now we got access to the username. Otherwise, you know, we only have the user ID in our chat table here. We need the username for user ID 1, and that's going to be Etoile, but we find Etoile in the users here. If we check in this row and we have the chat user ID 2, we want the name for who's number 2. So we go into the user and grab the name Dia. So we can get the name here, and we also are returning the chat text here. And this is HTML with a little PHP. So we are putting out into the class usernames with a capital S there, and the chat messages with a capital S there. We're putting out these things here. We do echo username and says and the chat text here. So if you look here, you have Dia says hi Etoile. So it's actually, for this row, we're getting Dia says, and then what she were putting in the text area. Okay, so that's how we display the texts, and we are also doing some other stuff here. For example, we're deleting. You see, we only have 15 chat text messages here in the database. We're deleting everything else. We don't want to see everything from 1 year back. So we are deleting everything. If xcount, we have xcount already here to count how many chat messages we got. And if it's greater than 15, we're going to go into the database and we're going to take out, we're going to delete the first one. You see, order by chat ID. We don't do, we're not flipping it. So we actually need to do this, I think, because we've flipped it up here. So we need to flip it back. So order by chat ID and limit 1. So it only grabs the first row, and we're deleting that first row every time we do the loading this display messages. So it's checking for that every time we do that. And then another thing we are doing is we're gonna check if we have got a game on. If someone is choosing us, we need to actually check for that. So that's what we're doing here now. So what we're doing, so there's actually happening two things in display messages. We're outputting the messages, the chat messages, but in this function I also put it to like check for if someone has chosen us to play us, because we need to look for that. So what's happening here is it's selecting everything from the user table where the user ID, so we're only selecting one, and that's for us. If I'm logged in as Etoile, I need to check if I have a new game ID, because if someone is choosing me, I'm gonna get a game ID here which is different from 0. So this row here, this is checking if someone has like started a game and I got a game ID. So I have to check my row. So we go into the database, we're checking our row, and we do if, well, you know, I'm in the database, so we don't need to do this, but if we're checking me here, I do a while loop here. It's just like I'm used to this one, even though I only got one row. I'm doing this while loop, it doesn't matter. So we do a row game on, and if row game on, the game ID, I'm checking my row here, and if game ID is different from 0, if it's not equal to 0, we got a game that has started. So what we'll do if a game is started, we need to check for the game ID. It's the token. We're checking for which is our opponent, and we're doing a string that we're gonna do a get post or a get here instead. You know, we've seen this already with available players, that we were redirected to this page right here, redirect. So if we're in a game now, someone has chosen us and we are redirected, we are doing this. We're putting the ID to the game ID, and we're putting the name on the opponent to something, and we're going to redirect.php, and yeah, that's what we do. So it's the same thing as we had before when we when we had the available players. I'm just gonna check it out so you can see it. It was the display players, display available players in user class, display available players. And here, if we're not in a game and we've chosen someone, we did this, or here we displayed everything. And if we can choose a player, if it's not red, then if we click on it, we're going to do the redirect with the ID of a random game ID and the name we've chosen, the opponent. And that's exactly what we do in display messages here. Sorry, the chat. That's exactly the same as we're doing here. So we go to redirect, and I've already explained redirect, so I'm not going to explain it again. So two things when we go into display messages. It's to display the messages, and it's also to check if someone has chosen us to play in a multiplayer game. Okay, so in the next video, we are going to have a look at when we are redirected and we come to this page right here. What is happening on this page? And this one is, you see if we go up here, it's chessmalt pages ch index.php. So we're coming now to this page. We're going to this folder, chess, and we go to this index there. So this is our next step. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.